glad you came by. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited.
Cheers, cheers, cheers. Boss,
Ta-da!
cheers. It's almost like when you don't look someone in the eye when you're cheersing.
Oh my God, I did look you.
Have you heard that?
Yeah.
My-
You know actually why they do this?
Hmm.
I don't know which years that was exactly, but when they long time ago, when one country or like one nation would sit with another one at the table, like king and king of another country or whatever, right? They would do the cheers. And the reason they would look each other in the eye is because they show that they trust each other to not put poison in another drink,
Mm.
in each other's drink.
So the splash would kind of
Yeah.
splash over.
Yeah.
I've heard that one. I've also heard if you don't look someone in the eye when you're cheersing them, you have 7 years of bad sex.
Fuck. It's okay. Women in 21st century don't get good sex anyways. So. Okay.
But we were just talking about either if you cheers your drinks and you don't look someone in the eye, it's either 7 years of bad sex, or if you're a king in the medieval time, you actually probably didn't even care about 7 years of bad sex because who cares about quality sex in medieval times? But you did care about being poisoned. So
Yeah. Actually, they probably cared about sex too. Like they were, we don't know this stuff, right? Maybe they were like even more nasty than we are.
yeah, I don't know. Like I kind of feel that kings and like back in that time, like without going too dark, but like I feel like rape or unconsensual sex was like way more,
For sure.
you know,
Yeah.
like if you're a king, do you care if you get one of your 35 women off?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah. And they weren't educated enough about like feelings and how other person feels and stuff.
Certainly not like today's generation.
Right. I don't know if it's like for the worse or for the better. I don't know.
Well,
Just different time.
right? Like now you can't hurt it. You can't say anything to anyone without hurting someone's feelings.
Yeah. And actually, in fact, you can't say anything without hurting anybody.
Yes.
I literally just posted a video today.
Who did you hurt?
Hmm?
Who did you hurt?
Domestic violence, apparently, because I posted this video where my husband was holding my neck and people were like, oh my God, kids can't see this. You're showing that domestic violence is fine. And I'm like, the fuck? I had to take it down and go and actually reshoot it and like him holding my hands because I guess the neck was just like too much for people to handle.
Mm.
Fuck. Oh well. It's the time when everybody is offended at everything. So
It's true. It's true. And I think it also comes into raising kids.
yeah.
You know, the things my parents said to me were like, we're going to toughen you up real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Now it's like, you got to be careful. You'll be sending your kid to therapy for, 20 years.
Not just
So they-
therapy, they can actually go to like child services. You know what happens to you if you're a child and you tell your Russian parents that you're gonna go to child services and like write some stuff against them? They fucking lock you down for like a week, take your phone away, take your computer, and then after 1 week, you're like, okay, I'm not going to child services anymore. Sorry, guys. But here it's like, I hear so many people, oh, we can't like slap our child because he's gonna go to child services. I mean, like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. If I'm a parent and, my child goes against me to child services or something, I'm gonna be very upset. I'm gonna send him to Siberia.
Do they have child services in Siberia?
I don't think so. No, if you're misbehaving in Siberia, you fucking go to grandmother, to babushka, and you're helping her on dacha, which is like a summer house, and she's like making you work so hard that you don't want to go to any child services anymore. Just like, okay, I got it.
It's true though. Like in other countries, like people have children to work.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we need some labor around here. Let's make some humans
Yeah.
and then just put their asses to work.
I mean, it's sad, but at the same time, I was working since I was 14.
Mm.
And I
Yeah,
guess
tell me.
that's why I didn't really like whatever work I do now. It seems so easy to me, but I see kids 14 years old nowadays, they're like fucking useless. They don't know how to do anything. They can barely like wipe their ass. Seriously. Maybe it's just the country I live in. I'm not sure, but I think it's good to make your kids work. Like maybe obviously not like work on plantations or something like but doing some sort of work and learning how to make money and learning how actually hard it is to make money. I think that's important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, I think we now are a generation where we don't really know how, like, there is no like one set way to make money.
Yeah.
Like, you're a testament to this. You're on TikTok.
Yeah.
like I don't think 10 years ago we would have called that a job.
No, I would
We call that dancing in front of your mirror.
yeah, I would actually always make fun of these people like bloggers and stuff and I would be like, "Okay, you guys don't make money. If you're a girl, you'll probably have somebody paying your bills. If you're a guy and blogger, you're just like a lost fucking cause." But but I only started it a year ago and it actually financially replaced my previous job where I would work like 24/7. I used to sell cars. I would work 24/7 and I never had any vacation, any time off kind of thing. And I was making less money than I make now, basically dancing in front of a mirror. Well, I don't dance in front of the
That's true.
I
Yeah.
make comedy. So it's like a little different. But it still sounds funny to me, even crossing the border to come to LA. A few days ago, the security guy, I guess, asked me, "What do you do for work?" And I was like, "I'm a TikToker." And then he just it was like 1 minute silence. He just kept staring because he looked at my age and he's like, "Okay, she's 30. She's a TikToker. She definitely has a sugar daddy."
He's waiting for you to list other jobs.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
let's start with your primary job, not your hobby.
Yes, not the thing you do on Saturday
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
And then he was kind of like, "So how much money you make on TikTok?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Each month it's different, but it pays my bills." And he's like,
Is
"Oh."
that an immigration question or is he just getting curious right now?
I think he was genuinely curious
Okay.
because he couldn't understand. I guess he probably used to seeing like little kids, like teenagers, saying that they're TikTokers, but he never expected like an old ass woman being on TikTok. And he was probably, yeah, waiting for me to actually be like, "Yeah, so and then I have this and this and this is my job." But
If I was in line for immigration and there was a TSA or not, I guess they're called immigration officers,
yeah.
immigration officer hitting on a hot blonde TikToker, I'd be like, let's move this fucking line up. Come on.
Right?
Like I don't know what it is about an airport, but I become such an asshole in
Yeah.
an airport.
Yeah.
Like I want everybody to move and like keep going.
Yeah.
Like, you put me outside on the street, I'm lollygagging around talking to whoever, like,
Yeah.
hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? In the airport, I got one mission and I'm worthless. Like
Yeah.
it's not even
Keep,
myself.
keep, just keep going. Like, you don't need to talk to everybody there. And like, so many. Okay, I'm going to tell you this crazy story. I just flew to Miami, where you're from, and I flew with WestJet. And I used to hate their airlines because they lost my luggage long time ago and all this stuff, right? So I realized that I love them because the moment I got in on the plane, you know how they usually start this bullshit like, "Oh, this is where the exits are. If the plane is falling, this is what you have to do and stuff." I loved WestJet because they skipped this whole bullshit and they just started taking off basically like right away. And you know what? It's kind of like, I'm like, "Okay, I hate being taught." And they were like, "Listen, if we're falling down, you don't need to know where the fuck the exits are. We're dying." Like it felt like they were just like, "We're taking off." But I think they did it because we were kind of late or something, or like the flight was delayed. But I loved it. But at the same time, I think I kind of lost hope because when they would tell us all these things like, "Okay, you can put the oxygen mask and then you have to do this and that and the ramps and stuff," you kind of get the hope that in case you're falling, there is a little slight chance that you might make it alive. But this time WestJet was like, "Cut the bullshit. If we're falling, we're dying. Let's take off." So I loved it. Like it's I think they should all just
I heard in a stand-up recently, and it might have been Dave Chappelle. I apologize to whoever it is, not stealing your comedy, but they suggested we need like a airline for people that don't give a fuck.
yeah.
Like Like, let me roll the dice right now and put me on sketchy
Yeah.
airlines.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to wait in
And the
line.
pilot is smoking weed while
Yeah. Everybody like we're all just winging it, you know.
Yeah.
But there's no line. You get on your plane in 5 minutes, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
roll the dice, like
Yeah.
because like every time I'm on an airplane and they tell me you need to buckle your seatbelt, I'm like, how bad is turbulence to where I'm gonna go flying? I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen it in movies where luggage comes out of the top of the
Yeah, yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but you better believe if turbulence happens, I'm buckling the seatbelt. You
Yeah.
know, when the plane's steady.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. We can start those airlines. We're gonna call it No Fuck Given Airline.
No fucks given airlines.
Yeah.
Don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
DGAF
I love
airlines.
it. I love it. I'll sponsor it.
I'm so glad. So, like, when I hit you up to come on the podcast, I was like, I'm going to slide in some Ukraine and Russia. You know, obviously, it's a very sensitive topic. So, I'm going to
Uh,
pick the right moment, you know, to slide it in. And then you hit me up prior to coming. You're like, listen, if you want to make your podcast good, you're already calling the shots in a voice memo. You're like, we should talk about Ukraine and Russia. I
Yeah.
was like, thank God. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's important. So, you know, I've been trying to research myself, and this is the biggest thing I have with the way society is right now is we either censor people or we only give one side of the story.
True.
And it used to be where you'd have every conversation would be a debate between two different people with two different sides of the story. You'd look at it and you go, you know, I think I agree with that person a little bit.
Yeah.
But now you only hear one side. And as much as I'm with the Ukrainian people and I support freedom, I think there is another side to the story that's not being told. And from what I've researched is, you know, it sounds like Russia for a very long time, this territory used to be Russian. It used to be part of the Soviet Union. And Ukraine apparently was, and if I'm getting this wrong, fact check me, but Ukraine was apparently in talks about joining NATO.
Yeah.
And that served to be, there's one or two concerns for Russia. One is if they allow Ukraine to be part of NATO, you're basically setting up missiles from your enemy right along the border. It would be like, you know, if we allowed China to have Texas,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
in addition to the fact that Ukraine controls a lot of the energy resources that used to be the Soviets. But you know what's the Russian story? Is that correct or is it a little bit different?
So, from what I heard, it is exactly the way you explained it. And I mean, any president, I guess, would kind of maybe follow Putin's lead in terms of, you know, doing what he's doing now. In no way I'm saying that it's okay, because for me, I think the main thing is that innocent people are being hurt, and that is the most important thing. But again, there's so many sides to the story. So yes, one of the things is that basically if Ukraine joins NATO, then how do I say it in English? NATO? NATO?
NATO.
NATO.
Yeah.
Then basically Putin is kind of setting Russia up for a possible war and stuff, right? Because then even like the US will have access to
Yeah.
to there, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is some people say that because in 2014 there were a lot of Russian people stuck in Ukraine and they have been abused all this 8 years, and that is the reason. That is actually so. Apparently, when Putin and Ukraine president had a conversation and they kind of tried to see what Putin wants, his main thing was to let those Russian people move back to Russia. So he actually doesn't want the Ukraine. I guess he wants just these people to be free or something. Anyway, there's so many things. And you know what's annoying for me is that when COVID started, everybody right away became doctors on the internet. When this whole thing started with the war, everybody became political experts and stuff. We don't know. And the only thing that we can really do is try to protect each other and be kind to each other. So I am in no way, there's no excuse, obviously, for what Russia is doing right now. But as a human, anything you can do in your power to stop the war, you should do. That's how I feel about it. So I don't post any like videos of Ukrainian buildings being bombed on my social media. Instead, I make enough money or more money so that I can donate to help the victims of the war.
Mhm.
And I get so many hate messages, it's just unbelievable. And people are like, oh, you should be dead because you're Russian. And I'm like, you are stupid.
Yeah.
I'm like, the more hate you put in this world, the more wars is gonna happen.
Mhm.
Because okay, I have Ukrainian relatives, I have Russian relatives. We're all kind of like sisters and brothers, right? It's almost like Canada and US, right? Like,
Well,
okay. But I mean, like, you probably have some friends that live in Canada, right? And
yeah, I'd say that it would probably be even more applicable to like Midwest Americans
yeah,
versus like coastal Americans.
yeah,
Because we're
yeah,
all the same people, but man, you go to like the Midwest,
uh-huh,
those people act way different than the people in LA.
yeah,
So it's kind
yeah.
of separate. It's kind of that's how I would look at it.
So the more hate you spread, the more hate you're gonna get back, the more wars are gonna happen. So, in my opinion, just try to stay human in any situation. So why hating on somebody who happens to be Russian just because Russian government is trying to invade Ukraine or is invading Ukraine? It's really difficult. But I guess, and it's difficult for me because my content is comedy.
Mm.
And most people are like, the moment I post something funny, they're like, you should not be posting it. There's war happening. But hey, guys, you're forgetting that there is war happening in Afghanistan as we
Hmm.
speak. Why are you not bringing that up anymore? There is COVID happening. Why are you suddenly, COVID is done?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's nothing to joke about, but really there's certain like videos going around on the internet saying like, yeah, Putin started the war, but he ended the COVID, because now nobody talks about COVID anymore. They just talk about the war. Nobody is talking about there's still people dying in Kazakhstan because of the recent invasion of the terrorists, which actually just happened like few months ago. But nobody is talking about it now. This is like the everybody needs this new thing. Oh, Ukraine, Russia. Let's hate on Russian people. Let's hate on Ukraine people. You know, it's really sad how people are reacting towards it. But I mean,
Yeah, it feels like we are constantly looking for the next problem to be
mhm,
an evangelist of,
yeah,
or the next problem to, oh, we have the answers, or
yeah,
we have our own input to place,
yeah,
blame, or even just vent our own personal frustrations,
for
right?
sure.
But that I we it's so funny because I wouldn't call myself a conspiracy theorist, but I am one of those kind of like folks that thinks about aliens a lot or whatnot. And there was that one time where I think it was Ronald Reagan, one of our presidents,
Uh huh.
had in one of his speeches where he said, "Listen, if aliens were to invade Earth, we would all give up our conflicts with each other immediately
Yeah,
and fight the common good of an invader that's taking
yeah,
over planet Earth." And I think that's kind of where we need to get to, where we think of everybody worldwide as our neighbors and brothers,
yeah.
and our own people. Like we should care, And so, how did this all relate to Crimea? Do you know, like, because I think Russia went into Crimea first,
Yeah,
and
2014.
yeah, what was that about? Do you know?
So again, I am so far away from politics. I don't know if I'm being told truth. I did my research, obviously, but it's
Well, what were you told? I'm less about what the actual foreign policy is, because people can Google and read up about this. But I'm more curious about what did you hear within your own family and your Russian circle when they've invaded Crimea? Was it similar to how they invaded Ukraine, or was it different?
I'm not sure what was the particular reason for them to invade Crimea, but I know that the outcome of that is what strike the war this time.
Mhm.
So apparently Putin took over Crimea for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I guess because a lot of people in Crimea wanted to be a part of Russia. And I don't know, there was some situation like this. So basically, he took over Crimea, but Ukraine did not officially register Crimea as a part of Russia. So they didn't give that paper.
Mhm.
And one of the things he wants now is to get that paper. And Ukraine So basically, once Ukraine gives this paper signed by the president saying that, okay, Crimea is a part of Russia now, then the whole world and the like world map will change, and like the Crimea will be a part of Russia. And I guess that is the one of the things that he is demanding in order for him to stop the war.
Mhm.
Again, I'm really far away from politics. I'm trying not to get in. All I can do as a human with large following, I can gather enough funds and, sell enough of my products to get them enough money to help some families. And I have. So far, actually, it's really crazy. Yes, I don't post sad videos of like children dying because I choose not to, but I do post things that really matter. Let's say somebody messages me and says, "Oh, my family is trying to escape from Kharkov. This is a city in Ukraine right now. Can you help?" So I'm going to screenshot that and put it on my story. And so far, I have helped 4 families just from reposting the things that they asked me to post. So, okay, sure, I can post like sad fucking videos of kids dying, but that's not going to change anything. It's just going to make people more frustrated, more angry, feel more anxious and stuff. Instead, I'm going to post things that really can find can get some sort of solution because I have massive following. And then if somebody tries to escape Ukraine and there is another person that has a car and is willing to drive them and they connect through my story, I think that is already more than any average influencer who just posts sad videos has done for this war.
Mhm.
So, and that's why it really pisses me off when people are like, oh, talk about Ukraine. Like, fuck you. I actually am doing so
Yes.
much right now to help people
Yes.
rather than just talk about the war. Okay, I can talk forever, but is it going to change anything? Is it going to help this family escape from Ukraine? Probably not.
Action versus inaction, right?
Exactly.
You know,
And yeah, and most people they just want to see you like, talking about things, but they don't really expect you to take any action.
exactly. Well, no, what is some ways that, your followers or people without 1.5 or 1.9 million on TikTok can help out?
How they can help out?
Yeah, because have you heard anything from your Russian family and Russian friends and family that, they say, this is really what we need, or this is how we can actually be helped in this situation? Because I see this situation, Putin's going to wipe his ass with these sanctions. The real people that get hurt by sanctions are the actual people,
Yeah.
not the leader.
Yep.
Like you can't use a credit card in Russia right now because they were taken off SWIFT.
Yeah.
They're talking about cutting off energy. They're talking about cutting off all different types of things. So, have you identified anything within your personal network to where people can help out if they don't have the large reach where they can make these connections?
Right. So the number one thing I guess is like there's so many scam fundraisers right now.
Mm,
Um, so I guess the one thing is to not fall for any sort of these fundraisers and try to like donate your money to somebody it might not even be helping Ukraine in any way. It might just be like some guy in Zimbabwe trying to get some money. No, seriously, it's sad, but it's happening, right? Like let's not, you know, let's understand the reality. And I guess the things you can do to help is like maybe try to see on different influencers' pages specific families that need help. So, for example, very sad, but today they bombed hospital, like women's hospital in the Ukraine, and some kids, like newborn kids, were basically left without parents because parents died. And so this is the help that you can do, like reach out to that particular hospital and send money straight to them, not to some fucking fundraiser who you don't even know if the money actually going to, those families and stuff, right?
that's great. Yeah, and we'll post in the show notes some legitimate charities
Yeah.
and some legitimate organizations that you can get involved with if you're interested, because I really do think depending what no matter what you think about who's right or who's wrong, it's the people in both of these countries
Yeah,
that need help right now,
for
right?
sure.
Because there's lots of things the USA could have done that they didn't do
Yeah,
that has escalated and allowed this to escalate. So I think at the very least, we as people can start working to help other people.
for sure. And it's not just from, I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but it's Russia invaded Ukraine and everybody is now, by now it's seventh day. So everybody is used to be hating on Russians, but loving Ukrainians. But if you look at what's actually happening, so for example, they stopped providing oncological care to kids, to Russian children that have cancer, simply because of their nationality, just because of this war.
Mm.
How is this fair? How are these kids? Why are they suffering? That doesn't make sense to me. Just
Yeah.
because they have Russian passport. I personally lost about $5,000 trying to now send my mom back to Russia because she wanted to go home and she doesn't have medical insurance here. So she has to, and she's been having problems with her eye where she can barely see now. So she has to fly back to Russia, but she can't because all the flights are canceled. So every time I book a flight, it's canceled. They don't do any refunds or anything like this. So, and I'm sure a lot of people, it's a little thing, obviously, in comparison to like people losing their lives in Ukraine or Russia, but a lot of people are suffering. And I guess, like, if somebody really wants to help, try to find somebody who actually needs it, like on the internet, or somebody like lost their parents or somebody lost their child or something, and donate straight to that family.
That's interesting. My ex-girlfriend, she was from Rostov.
Okay.
And that was the one that got away. But she's from Rostov and her family, I hit her up. I was like, so, are you guys out of the country? Are you guys safe? They're like, nope, my family's stranded in Moscow.
Oh, wow.
And so, even in Moscow, even in a city where it's kind of safe right now, still, for two countries being at war, they're stuck.
Yeah.
Like they can't go anywhere, they can't do anything, they can't. I mean, if you thought the COVID lockdowns were bad, imagine being at a war where the rest of the world does not sympathize with you.
Yeah.
And in order to get your leader's attention, they're going to keep punishing you.
Yeah.
It's like imagine if someone walked in and they had beef with your dad and
Uh-huh.
you're a little kid.
Yeah.
And so in order to get your dad's attention, they just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And they just
That's
continue to
exactly what's
make,
happening.
yeah.
That's a very interesting way of putting it. But yeah, it's exactly what's happening. They're trying to make people more and more irritated so that they go against the government. But the problem that they don't understand is that our government doesn't fucking listen to us. No, they just put somebody to jail for 100 days because they sent financial help from Russia to Ukraine to some family or something. So how they put an actress in jail, and I don't know how long she's gonna spend there, but they're saying like up to 20 years because she posted on social media something against Russian government. What the fuck do you want us to do? Sure, I can talk all day about going against Putin, but eventually they're gonna put me in jail or they're gonna charge me 20 grand or something. So it's not like we can really change anything, but we're trying.
Are so you're Russian, are you tri-citizen? Do you have three?
Only two citizenships
So
now.
in
So
Russia and Canada?
I am Russian and Canadian, and then now I'm spending more and more time in the US. I love it here. It's fun, and I'll probably try to maybe live like few months here, a few months back in Canada. I really want to eventually go back to Russia for some time too, just like to kind of get back to my heritage.
Yeah, help out the local people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. What you're up to in LA right now? Like, what are you doing? You made this following on TikTok. Your videos are actually very funny. My favorite one is the one where you run into your ex on Manhattan Beach and he
Yeah,
turns
the
out to be a
garbage.
trash can.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite ones. And then you compounded on top of that joke by when he doesn't respond to you saying, "Oh, I guess we always have communication problems."
Yeah.
And so, like, these skits, in my opinion, are fucking hilarious.
Thank you.
Like, they're fucking hilarious. Like, as someone who appreciates comedy, anytime their comedy has like half truths, hilarious, right? And like, I think that it's important for us, especially between genders, race, and all these very sensitive topics, to still be able to make fun of each other,
For sure.
right? Because if we're not making fun of each other, it's only going to get more and more and more
Yeah,
serious to where we're actually going to start doing things to each other that, are unhealthy,
yeah,
right? I think for the longest time, comedy has been that driving force that kind of keeps us grounded.
for sure. Yeah. I think it's so important to even be able to laugh at yourself. I'm gonna give you this example, like
Mhm.
Black Lives Matter, right?
Yes.
So I can take down all my funny videos, and I can only talk about how important it is to not show any racism. Or I can put out a funny video about Black Lives Matter and I'm going to get some money from Creators Fund, or I'm going to get some money from like, my views and stuff, right? And I'm going to donate this money to Black Lives Matter Foundation. So which one is more helpful, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And when you put together posts, did you ever think about did you ever create a story or create a skit that you thought would resonate with the current times, or was it just more off of your own inspiration? Like, if a young girl wanted to jump on TikTok today and kind of uh, you know, get their comedy out there, have you always just been staying super true to what's on your mind, or have you tried to incorporate the popular topics?
If I put out everything that's on my mind, I'm going to be banned within 24 hours.
You and me both.
So,
If you're not shadow banned, you're not in the cool kids club. But
yeah. So I guess I have a little bit of a twisted mind, so I look at things a little bit differently than most people would, and that is, I think, how comedy is created. So, in the moment when people would like sit and cry about something, I'll be like, okay, this is funny. I'll be like, okay, this is like amazing. I'm gonna create a funny skit out of it. So, uh, but I do take different situations in consideration. So, for example, this guy that's scammed so many women on Tinder, the Tinder swindler.
the twin, yeah, the
Yeah,
Tinder
yeah, yeah.
swindler, yeah.
So, like, I had an idea of like men that are scamming women and stuff, but then this situation came with the guy, well, like the actual guy scamming girls, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna use his name because honestly, like, I it brings me views, right? When the topic is hot, something like this Tinder swindler or like other things, I try to tie my videos up to that so that more people will get to see it.
So what's the creative process look like? Do you write the script down and then try to play different parts? Do you completely, do you smoke a joint and just do it all ad hoc? You know?
So I never try to push myself into like sitting down and writing the entire script. What I do usually is I get an idea
Uh-huh.
and I write it down in my phone. Just an idea. Like
Okay.
for example, what did I write today? Here, I'm gonna read it. Okay, so for example, today my husband coughed and I wrote American versus Russian girl when her elderly husband starts coughing. And then I get to expand the idea. So then I write it down, I sit down and I have a piece of paper and I start writing down how, for example, American girl would be like, oh, honey, do you want some tea? Are you okay? And then the Russian girl would like run in with the will papers and like, hey, make sure you sign here before you die. Like this kind of thing, right? So I kind of like, I write the idea first. Then whenever I get some time, I sit down with a glass of wine, a joint, whatever, and I start expanding it and I write down the script and then I film it.
Okay, so it starts with the idea,
Mhm,
then it goes to the punchline,
mhm,
and then after the punchline, you sit down, you actually write out what you're gonna say,
uh-huh.
and then it takes like what, 1 to maybe 10 takes?
I usually do like 2, 3 takes,
Okay,
just
wow.
just kind of like make sure that sometimes the sound doesn't record properly and things like this.
Were you always that comfortable in front of the camera, or did it take some
No.
time?
So this is actually an amazing question. Thank you. Nobody asked me this before. So I am quite shy in person. I'm a really, really introverted person. And I have always been this way my entire life. But back in my head, I always thought to myself, like when let's say I would have like a group of 5 people in front of me and they would talk about certain topic. Back in my head, I'd be like, oh my God, I want to say this. And I want to say this because this is like so controversial to what they're talking about. But then in reality, I wouldn't spit it out kind of thing because I would be scared as to what they're going to think about me and, oh, who am I to even express my opinion and stuff like this, right? So then I had the most horrible relationship of my life. I was like with an abuser, and this guy was just like basically the most pathetic human being I've ever met in my life. Abused me verbally, physically, just horrible. And so after this relationship ended, which also took us a while to separate because like he threatened to kill my dog, he wouldn't leave me alone, I had to get like cops involved and stuff. So basically, once we were done, I was no longer scared of anything. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to talk about this relationship. And that's how the whole thing started. I started talking about like how, a lot of women take abuse and think that it's normal, or like how a lot of women think that being with narcissists is normal and stuff like this. So but instead of just talking about it, I turned it into comedy skits. And my very first video went viral. So then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep doing it. And yeah.
It's so interesting to hear that most comedy or most really good comedy comes from a dark place.
Mhm.
And that you took that dark place and you said, okay, now instead of being afraid of this, I'm going to take these emotions that I've been dealing with, but I'm going to put them forth in a way that's funny for everyone
Yep.
so that we can all laugh together. So
Mhm.
that was kind of the mission. So that's very interesting. Where do you want to go next with this? Like, are you like obviously I think the skits have skyrocketed you in popularity in such a short time, which is super impressive. But where are you going in the next year or two with this?
I'm gonna have a TV show where I'm gonna shit on people.
Yes. Yes.
I think I have what it takes to make fun of people, and I really hate stuck up people. So I would like my ideal life would be honestly to have one episode a week where I'm gonna bring in a celebrity,
Mhm.
some celebrity that I like truly don't get, or like obviously it's probably gonna be mostly men, and just like make fun of them, and I can perfectly do it myself. Like I don't think they have. I think there's a TV show here where they kind of like 5 comedians make fun of like a celebrity, or like what is it called? Do you know?
Well, on Comedy Central there was a show that where they would do like roasts.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
like
like
the roast battle or
roast
whatever they
battle.
call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, 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 exactly.
So I want to do that, but I want to do it all by myself. Like I'm gonna kind of sit with a person and shit on them for an hour, but in a funny way. Like
Yes.
obviously, yeah. So
And so who are some of those men that you don't understand that you would like to be your first guest?
oh, interesting. Very good question. Let me think. Who would I bring first? I'd probably bring Kanye West first, just because I think he's super talented, but I think he's a little bit like controlling, and I just want to know what's going on through his mind, and I can definitely like his poor fucking publicist, right? Like I don't know if you're following this guy or not, but he like his Instagram is just like a girl on her period, just like all over the fucking place. It's like he posts a video of Kim Kardashian, then he removes it. He posts some like crazy like story, then he posts his music video. He deletes it. He blocks his Instagram. Like I just want to meet that guy, and I'll be like, listen, do you need help?
Do you think he needs help, or do you think this is all an
Marketing.
act, a marketing?
Could be. But I mean, it would be very interesting. Obviously, he is very talented. His music is amazing. But I think I want to know if that's actually him creating all this chaos around himself to kind of promote himself, or is it him being actually mentally unstable and, you know, being who he is on cameras?
See, now this might be the conspiracy theorist in me,
Yeah.
but I think that him and Kim are in on it together.
I
I
think,
think
yeah,
I think that they're hitting their middle age crisis, or what else do we do now? And they're like, okay, let's go on a little separation. Let's
yeah,
have the world will obviously talk about it.
yeah,
And then you'll fight for me back a little bit. I'll choose, some random people to try to hook up with. And
yeah.
then in the end, it'll all work out. And maybe it wasn't this coordinated. Maybe it was an actual separation. But I think in the back of their minds, they kind of both know that, like, this is really about just keeping their story fresh
Yeah.
and engaging. Because ironically, right after the divorce, the Kanye documentary came out, which he was obviously not shooting. He was shooting way before he
Yeah.
ever met Kim. Have you seen the documentary?
Yep. And he also just released his little device where you can listen to his album.
That's cool. I actually liked that thing. It was
Yeah.
like this little like thing that you could.
We just got it. Yeah, it's soft, it's nice. It costed like $100 to buy, but I
Looks a little bit like a sex toy,
yeah.
but not.
Thank you. I said the same. I said the same. I swear. The moment it came in the mail, I opened it and it's like all silicone-y, and I'm like, oh, I have some.
This is what happens when Kanye is not getting pussy. He's
Right?
making sex toy music.
That's so true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was really impressed with the documentary though. The first two episodes I've seen, like it's like that, in my opinion, and I'm gonna get a lot of blowback for what I'm about ready to say. I think it's the best music documentary ever made, and
Hmm.
the reason why that is not out of storyline, because there's much better storylines. But when I think about a documentary, I think about documenting,
Yeah,
right? Whereas every other documentary you watch about music, people are telling the story or they're interviewing people that are telling you the story.
yeah,
This guy literally filmed every waking hour of every moment before he was ever famous up until he was famous and beyond.
yeah,
And you've got video clips of Jay-Z hearing him rap for the first time, Pharrell's mind
yeah,
getting blown, him and Jamie Foxx working on all the tracks. You get to like be put in that environment. I hope there's more artists out there that have documented this much. And that's why when I see people that are successful on TikTok or Instagram and that are just constantly putting out content,
yeah,
it excites me because I'm like, what we're going to be able to really tell these people's stories really completely one day
yeah,
because there's all this content about them and we can build this story that we didn't have before.
yeah, for sure. No, I agree with you.
But it's interesting. So where you were in Canada, you said you were selling cars.
Yeah.
What kind of cars were you selling? Are you selling Priuses, or is this like, or are we at a luxury Maserati Lamborghini dealership?
No, no. So I actually did good. In 2017, I started working at a BMW dealership,
Okay.
and I love cars. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, I kind of love what I do, and I thought that it's going to be my career. I never thought of like going online and, you know, talking about relationships or anything, right? So I was working there for 3 years, and then I realized that I hate my job so much because it was 24/7. I never had vacation, was all commission based. So I had to work on the weekends. I never had a full day off, like just like a full day to myself. Never happened in 3 years. So I decided to quit. But just before I basically told my boss that I was quitting, he promoted me to a Rolls Royce a brand ambassador, which is like salesperson.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's gonna be good money because if I sell like one car, it's gonna be like $20,000, $30,000, right? So I'm like, okay. And it's also the like status thing, right? Like being a Rolls Royce girl kind of thing, right?
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay. So I worked for another 2 years, but then at the end of it, honestly, if you look at the picture of me a year and a half ago while I was still selling cars, you wouldn't even recognize me. I was so miserable. I was so unhealthy because my work day was just insane and I had to eat like junk food and stuff. And I just wasn't happy. So I looked very, very sad and bad. And so here's how I quit. I started TikTok. And my first thing, I was posting videos, like car reviews. I would go to my work and I would
Seems smart to
take,
me.
right? I
Like,
would take a car because we would have all these like crazy cars in there. And I would do a walk around kind of thing. But then people didn't really like it. So it didn't hit on social media. But then the first video I did about like the relationships and stuff, it did hit and it got like over 3 million views overnight. And then I continued, but I still had my job.
so what? Let's start. Let's stop there for a second. What was that video about? That
Yeah.
uh,
So that was a video about this an American versus Russian girl, obviously, when she loses her engagement ring.
mhm.
And the American girl said, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry I lost my ring. I'm so sorry. I don't know how it happened." And she's like crying and stuff. And then the Russian girl basically comes to her husband and she's like, "Okay, I lost the ring. We have to go to jewelry store. We have to buy another one and don't complain because the reason I lost it is because the diamond was not big enough." So, and people loved it because it was kind of like the first thing out there on the internet where it was like so openly talking about like technically gold digging, right? But not really because that's her. Anyway, it's like so controversial. People loved it. So I started filming more. And then my boss sent me an email and he CC'd everybody on this email, like all my managers, all my coworkers. And he said, "Oh, if you don't stop making your TikTok videos that are not going to get you anywhere in life, and if you don't continue putting 100% of your time into selling cars, I'm going to fire you." And it was like a super long email. I know. And so it was my birthday when I received the email, and I walked straight to the dealership and I quit. And I was like, "Fuck you guys. You can't have control over my life. I'm going to make my TikToks and try to monetize it." So that's how it all started.
That's good. So you had a little overlap between when you hung it up
Uh-huh.
and when you were already getting some TikTok
Yeah.
traction. So there wasn't that pressure to, oh, I quit my job. Now I don't know what to do.
Mhm.
Now I got to make something happen. At any time you're in I
Yeah.
mean, to me, that seems like a really good selling point. Like, hey, this car is sparkly and roomy enough to where you
Right?
could lose an
He's an
engagement
idiot.
ring.
No, seriously. If he wouldn't fire me and I would be still doing videos out of his dealership, and now with the amount of following I have, I'm pretty sure the guy is being upset.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like I have a extensive sales career as well in my what before I, started getting into this stuff,
What did
but
you sell?
mostly software.
Okay.
And so, but even in software sales, like a good manager was always telling us, find any way you can to get in the door,
Yeah.
And so like, if you suddenly got 3 million 3 million, you said it
Mhm.
went, if you suddenly got 3 million views onto a car dealership's fleet, like people give away free cars and people give away
For sure.
perks to get that kind of press. So
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like you moved away from a toxic work
Yeah.
situation at least.
Yeah. For sure.
Cool. So let's talk about some other things. What motivates you? What kind of keeps you going? Do you have any habits, routines that you've stuck to that you find beneficial? If not, I can also throw you kind of like a curveball hypothetical question to kind of tease it out of you.
No, no. So what motivates me really is knowing that there are people in this world, mostly girls, women, that are sitting somewhere in a very bad relationship situation or going through divorce or going through hard time or anything like that. And they are looking forward to my next video because it gives them strength. When I receive messages from women that are saying, "You helped me going through horrible divorce or separation or breakup or anything like this, or you helped me break up with an abuser." That makes me, I honestly, I make good money, but I don't even worry about money at this point
Mm.
because the only thing that really matters is that I'm changing some lives with simply just talking and being silly and like fucking acting like I'm a dog in my videos or something. Like yeah, like so many. And it's really my inner personality. Like I'm really silly and goofy, and I love doing like stupid things and kind of like. So if I can do this, which is my passion, if I can do this on the video and I can impress some people and I can change some people's life, and why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? And if you can, make one more person
Yeah,
turn a dark experience into something that pushes their life forward,
yeah.
why not?